and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. During the January 22nd COVID-19 press conference, Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton said that pharmaceutical companies Moderna and Pfizer pledged to locally deliver about 90,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine by the end of March. President of IU Health South Central Region Brian Shockney spoke of COVID-19 patient numbers.
We've hit a new plateau here. As you can see, in the last few days, we've seen it. The numbers go up, but we aren't expecting those to go up to another surge. We're expecting them just to maintain there and go down as we see our positivity rate across the county and the state decline as well. Today marks a big milestone for us. Our region, we have discharged our 1,000th COVID-19 patient today. And that is impressive. And as I've always said, I'd like to thank our healthcare team for the compassion and the care they demonstrate and that they continue to show to our patients.
Shockney reported that COVID-19 related deaths have also declined. He encouraged community members to attend their vaccination appointments.
By making an appointment and not going to it, you're taking a spot that someone else could have taken. And it is also important that individuals not make multiple appointments, as when you make a multiple appointment at different sites, this takes much needed spots from others that need it and slows down our ability to vaccinate those eligible and get out of this pandemic sooner.
Shockney mentioned a second vaccination appointment for the second dose would be scheduled by a member of the vaccination team during the patient's first appointment. The Ellettsville Town Council approved a program agreement with Enterprise for fleet management during their January 25th meeting. Town Manager Mike Farmer spoke about the agreement.
And we wanted to be able to ensure a reliable and dependable fleet for the police department, state-of-the-art vehicles, and keep up with the times and not keep falling back with aged vehicles that we had to utilize. And so this fleet management program allows us to buy or lease purchase, if you will, 2 vehicles per year for 5 years in a row.
Farmer said program review could allow additional vehicles to be added throughout the 5-year agreement and that a half-ton truck would be part of the purchase.
We are purchasing a half-ton truck for planning. And this vehicle will be rotated out every year, and we can talk about that and why we're going to do that every year. So every year they'll start out with the new vehicle, and it'll really cut down on maintenance costs.
Clerk Treasurer Sandra Hash described the program as a car finance where Enterprise is the bank. She said Enterprise could hold the vehicle titles until the town has paid them off.
If we do decide to back out of the contract, then we can continue to pay out that term. They won't, demand full payment at the end. We can continue to finish the term of 5 years. So the way he explained it, we can stop it at any time. And then when it's time to resell the vehicles, even though these vehicles will be 5 years old, they have a better revenue and dealers that are looking for those type of things. So they feel they can get a better price out of them at sale, which will benefit us back. Now, if you figure the $1,200 a year we're paying them, then that's like $4,800 or $6,000 by the time we do a 5-year. And if we sell them then for $11,000, we're going to eat into some of that profit just in, cost. But the ease will be we'll no longer have to go out for bids, and we will save on maintenance costs.
Enterprise Fleet Account Executive Michael Fitzpatrick said Ellettsville partners with Sourcewell, which solicited Enterprise for this agreement. Monroe County Prosecutor Erica Oliphant presented a contract to fund research of racial justice disparities within the Monroe County justice system during the January 26 County Council work session. She spoke of the contract partnership and project goals.
Prosecutor's office would like to contract with Indiana University Public Policy Institute Center for Health and Justice Research on a racial justice project to track and evaluate prosecutorial decision-making. The specific goals of the project are as follows. We're going to pull from multiple criminal justice data sources to identify any gaps in our data infrastructure in the prosecutor's office. We're going to analyze and summarize individual level justice data from 2019 to see if we can identify where racial disparities are. We're going to interview community and justice system stakeholders to capture perceptions of racial and ethnic disparities and work toward understanding the mechanisms that contribute to racial and ethnic disparities and propose solutions to reduce those.
Oliphant said the analysis project would cost approximately $58,000 and that long-term goals would create an information dashboard for public access.
I'd like to track and release data for actions like charging decisions, plea offers, and sentencing, and then create a public-facing dashboard to make this data available to anyone online, so increase transparency on these matters.
Oliphant said creation of the dashboard would begin in 2022 after the initial project, which was projected to run for 10 months. The County Council will vote on the request during their February 9th council meeting. And we will have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day, believing in me.
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
to finish school,
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Monroe County Community School Board member Kathy Fuentes-Rohr presented a letter which requested COVID-19 vaccination priority for school personnel. She read the letter during the January 26 MCCSC School Board meeting.
During this pandemic, it has become abundantly clear how vital our public schools are to our economy, our communities, and above all to our students. From teachers to bus drivers, custodians to cafeteria workers, the people on the front lines caring for our children have shown dedication, diligence, and incredible commitment to their work. Yet the workload for everyone has multiplied exponentially. as has the stress and anxiety of doing it all during this deadly pandemic. The quarantine absences, multiple modes of education, cleaning protocols, and extra care are taking a toll in the stability of the education we can provide for our students, not to mention doing so in the midst of a teacher shortage and with limited financial resources. We hope that the legislature will remember this and support our schools with added funding this budget session. To value our work, the legislature must give us the funding necessary to continue and improve upon it. Our students and their families rely upon our schools to stay open and safe and to provide them with continuity, care, and education essential to children's overall well-being.
Fuentes-Rohr said the letter was addressed to Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb. Superintendent Dr. Judith DeMuth mentioned school COVID-19 metrics and positivity rates are monitored daily. Assistant Superintendent Dr. Andrea Mobley spoke about how cases are tracked and reported.
CCSC is reporting is consistent with the Indiana State Department of Health, with positive cases being reported as in person if the individual was in a school building 48 hours prior to the onset of symptoms or a positive test. The Indiana State Indiana State Department of Health dashboard reports students, staff, and faculty that are present in a building 48 hours prior to the onset of symptoms or a positive test or involved in extracurricular activities. So we're being consistent with that and how we're reporting it. As you may remember, we were reporting before the state was reporting. And as we've moved on and had additional cases, but I want to point out too that MCCSC also reports positive online students that report positive tests to our nursing staff and conduct the contact tracing for online students.
Mobley said many online students have siblings who attend school in person or interact with other students outside of the school, risking spread of the virus. Board member April Hennessy mentioned that there was confusion on when someone counted as an in-person or online student. Board member Brandon Schur said he also shared in the confusion.
So if the student had symptoms on Friday,
okay,
we would contact trace 2 days back.
So if, okay, maybe this is like a word problem and I'm never going to understand it. I feel like I'm more confused, to be honest, than before. It just seemed, do you know why, you do understand it's confusing, right? Like
Sure,
very
I do.
confusing and how so a student could essentially be an in-person student, be away from the school for the weekend, and then they could be considered an online student and in the reports?
Again, it depends on the onset of symptoms or the positive test. So if they had symptoms on a Friday or a Saturday or a Sunday, we would go back the 2 days.
So then they're in person. So if they were.
Correct.
But if they had symptoms on, say, a Monday and they didn't go to school, 48 hours back would put them as an online student.
That's correct.
DeMuth said MCCSC would work to retitle their COVID-19 dashboard to lessen confusion around the 48-hour marker. The Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners discussed the Rogers Family Goat Farm property donation during their January 26th meeting. The farm is located near the intersection of Winslow and Rogers Road. Director Paula McDevitt presented a memorandum of understanding with the Bloomington Parks Foundation for Property Development.
In late 2020, like November, December, the Rogers family came back to the Parks Foundation wanting to make a donation for the passive development of the goat farm property. And in the deed that is outlined in my next board report, we'll go into a little bit more detail on that. But as I mentioned, our Parks Foundation is put in place to be able to receive financial donations such as this. And this is the largest donation the Parks Foundation has received. So they are holding this $650,000 donation that is dedicated for this project exclusively. And because they hold it, the Parks Department will be the project managers, will run the project. And as my next agenda item outlines, we'll be working with the contractor on the project.
McDevitt said that the MOU would allow the Parks Department to invoice the Bloomington Parks Foundation for project costs. She also presented a contract with Mater Design for the Goat Farm Properties Master Plan.
They will be doing some survey work under this contract. Design development, as I mentioned, we have a very preliminary master plan, but now really getting down into the weeds and the fine details. Followed by, they will be charged with putting together the construction documents and putting it out to bid, and then the construction phase services that go along with a project of this size.
McDevitt said that the Mater contract is not to exceed approximately $61,000. She said existing prairie on the property would remain and that a portion of the plan included shelter homes and trail completion.
But passive recreation, there'll be some paving area, a shade shelter, some picnic tables, a small shelter. It will be designed for those visitors and users who want to maybe walk there and have a picnic, or if there's a class at Child's Elementary that want to walk over and have a classroom activity there. So that prairie is beautiful. It is very healthy, and it's a wonderful place. It will be a wonderful place to sit and just watch the prairie, and it will also include paving the full loop of the Jackson Creek Trail all the way around.
The Board of Park Commissioners unanimously approved both the MOU and Mater contract. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to Cats Week. The Bloomington City Council Committee of the Whole considered historic preservation of the Players Pub building in downtown Bloomington. During their January 27th meeting, Historic Preservation Manager Connor Hederick stated that the structure is a Boxman Mitchell building.
The structure is not listed on the National Register of Historic Places, but it is listed in the SHARD database and the Bloomington Historic Sites and Structures Survey with a rating of contributing. So you can see here where it is located, the building we were talking about, and just want to briefly make a note that it may appear as if two different buildings are there, but I'm treating these as one whole building, and I believe that they're both built at the same time and the architectural intent was one building.
Hedrick said that the Mitchell family greatly influenced the architectural design of the city and that this particular building has housed many historical businesses, including a Boxman's Family Restaurant.
Boxman is also recognized in Clementine Paddleford's National Food Column in This Week magazine. An article titled "Chow in a College Town," Paddleford wrote that motor tourists come to Boxman's from all corners of the nation. Dinners here are worth a half day's extra driving. So, it's really no surprise that Boxman was active and renowned in the state and national restaurant associations. He was a charter member for the Indiana Restaurant Association, as third president and lifetime member of the board of directors. In addition, he was elected to serve on the board of directors of the National Restaurant Association and the second person inducted into that organization's Hall of
Given the time period in which the restaurant was open, Councilmember Sue Scambaluri asked Hederick about Boxman's racial segregation practices. Hederick said he could not obtain any evidence that racial segregation did not occur.
What I'll say about that is that many white-owned businesses in Bloomington during the 50s and before, restaurants included, the practice de facto segregation. I don't doubt that many buildings on the courthouse square, for example, in some point in time housed businesses that discriminated towards people of color. While Boxman's was a white-owned business, I just haven't found any direct evidence that proves that Henry Boxman refused to serve African Americans or that he was a racist. But if the council is uncomfortable with including Boxman's legacy or his namesake in the historic designation of the building, I would remind them that the building also meets the architectural criteria for its association with a distinctive style and for its association with the Mitchell Brothers as a Mitchell Brother building.
Community member Carvin Thomas reported the Boxman's restaurant did segregate and used young women as propaganda. Hederick said that the historical designation would require the preservation of the building facade. However, property owner Josh Alley said that the building is rotting.
Whenever the city went through and redid all of the new sewer line right down the middle of Walnut, they did a lot of work kind of right adjacent to the old Jordan River that ran underneath the corner of this building. And so they filled it in. And when they did that, I'm not sure if the fill or what they did there, but a lot of this whole thing is sinking. And so that front seal plate on the building is actually rotting. And so if the building, we were told by two of the contractors, and I'm not sure how much snow we've got today just because I've been inside listening to you guys while it's been snowing, but he said, if we get a really heavy snow, the building's liable to fall in on itself.
Alley said the building has seen approximately 9 renovations throughout its history and that the costs to preserve the building are prohibitive. The council unanimously denied the historical designation. During their January 27th meeting, the Monroe County Commissioners unanimously approved a planned unit outline for Westgate on 3rd. Planner Ann Crecelius said the property was located in the Van Buren Township.
The PUD outline plan is proposing a mixed-use development that would include multifamily residences and commercial space. The petitioner states in their written statement, which is Exhibit 1, that the development is designed to provide additional housing options for working individuals and families within the county, and kind of focused on specifically for employees of adjacent commercial properties such as Ivy Tech Community College and companies located in Park 48 development.
Crecelius said the development would be split into 3 sections. The first section would include rental office spaces, the second section would include 7 3-story residential buildings, and the third area would include 6 2-story townhome buildings. She also mentioned the development's additional amenities.
In Area B, there's a pool and a clubhouse. It also shows there is a connection to Karst Trail down on the southwest side. There would be a fenced-in dog park for community members. Just to go back, because I didn't mention this up here. This area, Area A, would include a community garden. The Karst feature would be open space.
During their January 27th meeting, Bloomington City Council members Sue Scambaluri and Isabel Piedmont Smith presented an amendment to the Bloomington Municipal Code entitled Administration and Personnel to the City Council Administration Committee. Piedmont Smith said the amendment addresses fiscal impact statements.
So the ordinance 2103 would totally delete the section of municipal code that talks about the requirement for fiscal impact statements. And this amendment is putting that back, but in a very simplified form. It's just one paragraph instead of having several paragraphs. And it just says all proposed legislation must be accompanied by a statement describing the impact of that legislation on the city's finances, including but not limited to revenues, expenditures, and any debt obligations.
Councilmember Jim Sims clarified a fiscal impact statement would be required in any proposal, regardless if it had a fiscal impact or not. Councilmember Matt Flaherty asked Piedmont Smith and Scambaluri if each fiscal impact statement must have its own section within all legislation.
Like, as long as the fiscal impact is addressed in the ordinance and supporting materials, or in the legislation and supporting materials somewhere, then this requirement would be satisfied? Or does it really need to have like its own section with a particular heading, for instance? And that's where I'm still a little unclear.
Isabel,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Piedmontsman.
That's a good question. I mean, I would say to whoever is proposing the legislation, just cut and paste from wherever it is and put it, with a heading that says fiscal impact statement. Just so that it's easy for council members to home in on it. I don't know. Councilmember Scambolari, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to the reason for the choice of the word statement. In other words, talk to us about expenses and revenues and debt service and so forth. And if that's a statement in a memo that accompanies legislation, that's fine. If that is included, for example, in an app or by itself, that's fine too. It's intended to get us the information we want, not necessarily to prescribe the piece of paper that we use to gather it.
Councilmember Steve Volan argued that fiscal impacts are already presented when relevant. The committee voted to continue the discussion to their next meeting. The Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission considered home alteration to 620 South Ballantyne Road. Director Connor Hederick spoke of the alterations during their January 28th meeting.
The request is to resurface an existing concrete porch with bluestone, replace concrete walkway with bluestone, add a dry stack limestone walls along the front and rear porches, replace deteriorated shingles on the south elevation with new cedar shingles, stain and seal the remaining shingles that are on the other walls, and then expose, remove the stucco and expose the brick columns on the front and rear porches.
Hederick recommended to not approve the removal of the stucco from brick columns due to historic integrity. The commissioners unanimously approved alterations and required the replacement of column stucco. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.